The Digivolution is up and running. Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know what's coming? A Digi Destiny starts today. Let me hear you say.
Hello everyone and welcome to a delayed episode of Lost in Translationmon. This week we watched Kantaramon the Guardian
Which is a clue from the Digipast,
and The Dancing Ghosts, Bakemon.
or just the dancing Digimon. It occurs to me that Digimon is like sheep. There's no Digimons.
Well, that actually brings us to a message that we got from an anonymous person on Tumblr. So I'll just open that up. Anonmon. Alright, so this anonymous says, I know Jay still complains about Mon being at the end of every name, so has he heard of the theory that Digimon names end in Mon because they're digital and so it's like their file extension?
I hadn't heard of that. It's interesting. Okay, that's a lie. I heard it because I read the question a couple days ago.
Yeah.
But no, it's an interesting way of looking at it. Are there any Digimon that don't end with Mon, or is it
They all end
emphasis
with
on
Mon.
all of them?
Yep.
All right. Well, maybe. It's weird on some of them, like Palmon, where the joke is that they use the M in the Mon, so it's like Palm. But it's viable. It's definitely a way to go about it. It doesn't make it any less annoying. Like if I'm talking about a Word document I've made and say it's called Word.doc, I'm not gonna call it Word doc.
You might say, oh, this is my Word doc.
No, I call it Word. Like this, the file is just Word. If it's notes, it's not notes doc. It's notes. You don't add your file extension to everything. If you've got, say, Digimon Episode 2 isn't Digimon Episode 2.mp4. It's just Digimon Episode 2.
Episode 2, MP4 Mon.
Like, or no, it would be Digimon Episode 2 4 because you don't have the dot. And I kind of get that, but the thing that also doesn't make any sense with that is that if the file extension theory was true, then you'd have different file extensions given if it was a virus Digimon or if it was something else, right?
Well, you can have different types of EXEs, like they can be good EXEs and they could be evil EXEs.
So if it was like Tento XE, this might make more sense. Is there such a thing as a .mon file?
I want to look it up.
But the one thing this does is it makes me go, okay, his name is not Agumon, it's Agu.mon, right?
The Mon file type is primarily associated with Firefox.
Well, if there's a Fox Digimon, that'll make a lot more sense, I imagine.
For an example, bookmark.html.mon. Interesting.
Okay.
Oh, and Virgin Games Monopoly Deluxe for the Atari uses the file type Mon or something. And
Perfect.
Read Mail Monitor.
So I get it. I get the idea of it. And the Mon thing is annoying, but I'm slowly getting over it. I'm never going to completely, I don't think, but I'm slowly. The bigger one is the Digi stuff.
So we have another anonymous messages, I think, but they might be from the same one, but I'm not sure if they're the same one or different ones.
Oh no, I got it. It's Anonymous.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Alright. I get the feeling they were only translating a handful of episodes in advance and didn't know there were too many plot points, so they probably did the silly half-brothers line in the hopes that they could avoid the topic of divorce altogether, only to be thought. Okay, this is what happens when I
when you
don't
don't
have my
read ahead.
when I don't have my glasses, because I thought it said thwarted when the parents showed up later. See, I need to wear my glasses because I read that as thawed.
You really do need your glasses.
Yeah, but they're in my bag and I'm not near my bag. Anyway.
So
And
lazy.
then the next one says, I feel like the reason Joe goes from the cautious one to the trusting one to I felt like the reason Joe goes from the cautious one to to trust the mansion in the woods one is because he's kind of overwhelmed by discovering there's no other land in sight and is now just trying to trust whatever looks safe to keep himself together. I could just be reading too much into it though.
I think we have a good reason why Joe starts trusting the mansion more.
I think he just wants to see people, and we see that in the episodes that we watched.
Yeah, in the episode 11, there's a whole bit about it, and I guess we'll discuss it more then.
And
because
then the next one says, my theory for why Devimon never controls any of the Chosen's partners is because the Digivice would prevent it in the same way it freed Leomon. And I thought that was an interesting thought because I didn't really think of that. But
oh, and that's confirmed today. That's something
yeah,
I wouldn't have known watching that episode, so that's why
yeah.
I called him out on it. And maybe that's true. Maybe the Digivice prevents him from doing it. That doesn't make his plan any smarter. Um, he's still going about it in the stupidest way possible. First of all, he can warp through walls, so the fact that he didn't just end up in the bedroom of the illusion house and just murder them in their sleep physically makes no sense. I don't
Because
know
it's a kids show.
why was he wandering through the bathroom? The second thing is if he can mind control Digimon who the other ones would just trust on basic instinct, they go, that's a good Digimon. Why is his like mind controls just like kill them? Shouldn't he just go up to them quietly and like show up there and they trust him, they trust Leomon or whatever, so they let him approach, and then he whips out his knife and stabs them. Like there's so many more intelligent ways of going about this. Just get a Digimon to drop a giant rock on them because they won't have time to digivolve because we all know that takes about 5 seconds per guy.
Mm. And can be if they all did well in the one episode, that'll take up the whole episode.
um, and there are so many ways that Devimon can just instantly fix all his problems, and he doesn't do any of them. And yeah, it would just finish the show. But if the villain isn't worth respecting because he's an idiot, then he's not frightening, and the story takes a hit and is undermined pretty badly.
Back to the first one about that they're only thinking like 12 episodes ahead. I've actually heard something, and I can't actually find any solid proof that even the Japanese version was only planning on having the first 12 episodes, and after a certain point, or not 12, like a certain amount of episodes happen, um, they sort of something happens, and then they go home instead of going to another island. So I've heard that one, and I think that's quite interesting. But the dub one of them putting in throwaway lines, and there's another one in one of the episodes that we watched for this episode. They just maybe they expected it to not be a hit, but it totally was because Digimon's awesome.
Sure, it is. Um, but yeah, it makes sense. Like when you're making a show, you can never really know. Well,
Mm.
back then especially, you would never really know how much time you would have to tell your story,
Yeah.
and you can just get cancelled. And
Oh
so
yeah, and
you want to get to the end of it.
it's like how in Scrubs they were only planning to have one season, and it was going to have the janitor being like an imaginary friend of JD or a hallucination or something, but then they decided to because they were so popular, and they decided to do more than one season.
Hmm. Uh, and it's the opposite of the way it worked for Avatar: The Last Airbender, where they knew they had 3 seasons, so they planned the whole thing that way. But then when they got to Legend of Korra later, they don't know. So the first season's fairly conclusive. Then they go, okay, you got renewed again, and every season is who knows. And that's a big deal about making a cut. Well, making any TV show is you gotta be able to tell the story in the amount of time you have, and obviously this show goes forever. How many
Mm.
seasons of Digimon are there actually?
6.5.
But they're all like weird different stories and everything because they're not planned as a single
Two are the same sort of continuity, and 1.5 are the same continuity.
one and a half.
Yeah, there's like a half season that comes out. So it's sort of
Aha.
it's sort of like a season 7, but it's only like 20 episodes long.
Yeah, 20 episodes. That's not nearly enough to be a season of anything.
Yeah, but comparatively.
Was that the last question we had?
Uh, yes.
That's a good amount of questions, although it has been 2 weeks. So I guess
Yeah.
if we got 3 questions, that
Like we got
averages
some
one and a
pretty
half.
interesting ones from the anonymous on Tumblr. I'm sorry for probably not being able to read the questions as well because
She's
I my
blind.
yeah my eyesight's not too good, and I'm lazy and my glasses are not with me.
All right, you can send us messages at lostintranslationmon@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter as Translationmon. Tumblr is Lost in Translationmon, and same as Facebook with the Will. We've got a thread there, and on SoundCloud, and on iTunes, which people were just finding out still. It's great.
Yay! And if you want to leave us a review, that'd be pretty cool. Like I'd like that. I maybe I'll work out how to read the reviews because apparently it's strange if you read them from out of the country that you're in. And as we've seen on SoundCloud, like most of the people are from like Europe and America and Canada.
Well, step one for reading these reviews, get your glasses.
Step one, wear glasses. Two, be able to see. Now on to I will show you Digiworld.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while. Jay, what did you think of the living with Digimon?
So what happened was I was given an original VPET Digimon thing to look after for about a week. Um, and I did so. And okay, I might get some flack for this, so please don't hate me, you or anyone else, ideally. Uh, in that I don't understand how anyone found any entertainment value in this thing at all. Uh,
That's fine.
I fed it because I was told to. I always put it on mute because the sounds it made were super annoying. Uh, let's see. Like, the only game part of it is the training, and that's a solid 2 minutes of fun every, any given day. And then it goes to sleep, and you can't clean its poop while it's asleep,
Yes, you
which
can. If you disturb it and wake it up, you can clean its poop.
I didn't know how to do that because it's all in
You're
Jap.
just feeding it or
The one I have is
training.
all in Japanese, so
It's pretty easy to like to get though.
so I just turned the lights off when it fell asleep. And then the most entertaining thing that happened, and I thought this was great. It was on the fourth day of having it, I think. And May contacts me and goes, "So has it evolved yet?" And I look at it, and I haven't looked at it all day. I go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, it has." And you're like, "Well, what was it?" And I'm like, I don't know." So it's a gray image. I'll take a picture and I'll send it to you. And do you remember what your reaction was?
Yeah, I was confused because you got the one that I always wanted as a kid, but I
You,
didn't know how to get. You
she,
got Garurumon.
she screamed, "You cheated! You must have used a guide."
Yeah, I thought you'd get like because I never overfed it. I only fed it to the hearts when I was a kid, so I always got Angemon when I was a kid, and that's all I could ever get. I think I got Bergermon once out of it because I got a Lekmon one time because I left it at home or something and it was beeping all day, so that's how I got a Lekmon. But then besides that, those were the only two that I got. So I was well until I was an adult, and I actually, looked up guides on File Island and went like, oh, okay, that's how I get Garurumon. So I was expecting, Angemon because it's kind of easy to get. You don't have to train it that many times, or Vegemon because it's like the other. But no, no, we got Garurumon.
Well, the reason I got it, just it all felt normal. Here's the thing, I fed it until it didn't want food anymore because I thought that's what you're meant to do until it's not hungry. I didn't know you're overfeeding it. I just thought it wasn't. I don't check the hearts in the middle of feeding it. I just assumed that that filled up the hearts. Um, I don't disturb it in its sleep because I try to clean the poop. It doesn't work. So that game design tells me that you can't do stuff until it wakes up. So just all right, put it to sleep. Don't touch it. Um, the training in it in the game is the only like game part of it.
And
So
it's
I did
super
that a bit.
hard.
So I did that bit of it, and I'm like, all right. And all of that seemed really straightforward and like natural. So I ended up with this thing, and my only response to you was, "There are guides."
Yeah, because there are lots of different Digimon that you can get. You have to treat them different ways. But there are also fake guides of how to get like something called skull shooting Teddymon that everyone tried to get and I've never seen it. You
Oh,
have to like yeah?
that's like getting Sonic in Super Smash Bros. 64.
It was kind of like you had to put the tab in and mash A, and then you have to pull the tab out and then like feed it like 300 vitamins or something, and then put the tab
Genius.
in and then put the tab in like like a few hundred times.
What
So
tab?
like a tab is like you know how there's like a little strip a little gap down the bottom and you shove a bit of plastic in it and it separates the batteries
I
so it
oh
turns
that
off.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have to turn it on and off a bunch of times?
Yeah, and you can also break it by doing that. Like you can loosen it. So a lot of people broke them. I never did because I gave up about tab 12. I was like, I'm not going to do this 300 times. But yeah, so apparently that could get you skull shooting Teddymon, but I'm pretty sure that's not a thing.
You know what?
Unless
Seeing
it
some of
is.
the names,
Yeah?
seeing some of the names of these Digimon in the show, I'm like I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that.
Apparently it could kill any Digimon it battled with or something. If any of our listeners have actually got skull shooting Teddymon before, I want photos and I want you to send them to me because until then I do not believe the skull shooting Teddymon exists.
I feel like there would have been a confirmation of it by now.
Yeah, there's not because no one wants to have their thing 300 times.
Yeah, tabbing thing wouldn't make any sense because just turning it off and on.
Apparently in the first version, if you tabbed it a few times, there was a chance it would glitch and give you a Teddymon. So that might be where it came from, but it was only on the version 1, I think. Because Teddymon was a natural Digimon on it. So if you tabbed it, you could trick. So so I think tabbing does do something maybe in that case.
Speedrun tactics.
Yeah. Speaking of which, there's like this someone modded the pendulum that I bought. Like I didn't know it was modded until like I found out at 4 in the morning. If you press C, it like puts it into like speed version and it just goes super fast through the clock. And I didn't know this until like it woke me up at 4:30 in the morning because it was like it had been running all night and it was hungry.
And then you press C, and then it was hungry again 20 minutes later.
Yeah, but then someone in the With the Will forums enlightened me to the fact that it sounds like it's modded by pressing the C button, so I'm just not going to press the C button unless I need to. But it's only if like you press it when C does nothing else.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Anyway, so onto the show. The clue from the DigiPast begins with with Palmon, Mimi, Izzy, and Koshiro being separated and falling down on their beds, sort of similar to the way that Sub-Zero Ice Punch started, with Taichi, Agumon, and then Matt and Gabumon like landing. But this one, we first see Izzy and Tentamon, and Izzy says some silly things.
Okay, question.
Yep.
Now that we're here with Izzy and Tentamon, what does Koshiro Han mean? I don't know what the Han.
Han seems to be like an honorific that they use in the Kansai dialect, so apparently Tentamon is from Osaka.
Despite never having heard of Japan.
Anyway, so when Palmon and Mimi land, Palmon says, "Looks like we're in a jungle," and Mimi says, "Even I know that." So like, I think that's pretty cool. But then in the English version, it's her just saying, "Oh no, the humidity will make my hair go poofy."
It was Poodly.
Poodly? Oh wow, I thought it was just poofy. Poodly's way worse.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to go up and down here. So, and then she's like, "Yeah, maybe we can find some air conditioning."
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you go, "Oh, it all crashes back. Moo Moo is back." And you're like, "Oh fuck. Oh shit."
I thought she was much more reasonable in this episode. She is a 10-year-old.
In
But
Japanese, she's fine. In English, like, I knew it was coming already. But I'm like, "Oh god, it's gonna
yeah,
be really bad."
they do make her worse, but like in the end she's still a 10-year-old.
Yeah, but there are some lines where you ask yourself, like, is this person real? I mean, no, the answer is obviously no, but every other character sometimes reacts like a normal person does, especially in Japanese, like
Except
Sora.
Izzy, he never acts like normal,
No,
especially in the English version.
he okay, in English, yeah, he doesn't act.
He just uses random IT related words that could possibly mean something in IT, like just give me a nano. Who says that?
We seem to be falling at high velocity.
Like nobody talks like that.
Are you sure?
So they're saying let's make him talk with nerd talk. What do nerds say? Like, I don't know, use some science language.
Use the science.
So anyway, Mimi's hungry, so they find these banana things, and so she starts to peel. And she peels, and then she peels, and there's nothing. And then Palmon says, "This is delicious," and just eats it whole. So it's not a banana.
Well, do you think it's just all peel, or do you think you can actually bite it?
I thought Palmon does. I think you can bite it. You know those stringy cheeses back from like the 2000s?
Yeah.
I thought it was like the stringy cheeses, like you can peel it, but you can just eat it.
The sense I get is that it's like banana peel because like she's touching it and she's not figuring out it's any different, and then
Mm.
she won't eat it afterwards. So I think they're just banana peel all the way down, and Palma doesn't care.
Because Palmon's a plant.
Here's a
Is
question.
Palmon cannibal?
But like, yeah, we've already gone over the fact that Palmon does photosynthesize, and so the breakdown of sugar from the sunlight is happening. which means that she essentially eats by being in the sun.
But she's also eating a plant right now. Like,
Yeah, why does she need to eat? She should be the most powerful of all the
well,
Digimon. As long as she's in the sun, she should be
I don't.
fine.
She doesn't know what photosynthesis is.
But
Remember?
it's not like she does it intentionally.
Yeah, but she doesn't know what it is, so she might just think, "Oh, everyone else needs to eat, so I need to eat."
Yeah, but she wouldn't feel hungry.
Maybe, yeah, but do you ever feel hungry, but you're not hungry? You're just bored.
Yeah, I get that a lot, but
Yeah,
that wouldn't stop me from digivolving.
yeah, but I think maybe she doesn't photosynthesis very well because she doesn't know what it is.
But that doesn't make any sense. If a stupid person didn't know what like breathing was exactly with the whole like oxygen in your lungs thing, he'd still be able to do it.
Yeah, but it doesn't like he wouldn't go for another source of oxygen.
I guess.
All right, so the next thing that we see is that we see a pink thing on the floor, which she says, "Oh, it's poop," but in the English version, is that hair mousse?
In the English version, they go out of their way, like a long way out of their way to make sure that the kids don't think the things they're seeing are poop.
But it's clearly poop. It's clearly pink poop,
Well, yeah, obviously. And all references to poop are removed and replaced with references to dessert.
which is disgusting.
Well, yeah, lemon custard is disgusting. You're right.
Oh, well, I'll eat it. I love lemon meringue, but
Oh, if it
maybe
looks
not
like
when
that,
it's Sukamon. Speaking of which, so we meet Sukamon and Chumon. Sukamon's a is literally described as a sparkling golden poop.
I've written down here my notes
Yeah.
very angrily. So that one is just poop. Like, okay, so some of the Digimon designs are pretty bad, but this one, a designer sat down and goes, you know what? Just poop.
Well, it's kind of scary looking. Like it's got arms. It's got a bandage, I think, around its arm or
No,
something.
it has the black leather straps that Devimon has.
Oh yeah.
They're like little armband
It's
things.
just to signify that it's evil.
Probably.
Anyway, so the Digimon analyzer pops up, calls, and says, "Oh, it's sparkling golden poops with no talents, and let Shumon access his brain."
Uh,
So, but this in the English version, they changed this to they share a tiny brain, so they make Chumon as dumb as Sukamon instead of Chumon sort of being the boss of Sukamon and saying, "I'm your brain," and being the smart one. They're equally dumb.
Not only that, but that makes them a single Digimon together because
Yeah.
they have one brain they can't detach, which begs the question why they have two different names at all. It's just one Digimon with two faces.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're definitely separate because you can get Sukamon in one of the Digimon and it doesn't in the Digimon pets and it doesn't come with Shumon.
Well, obviously in the Japanese that's the case, but in
Yeah,
English, the way it's described, that's not possible. This design, I don't, like I'll talk about it more later, but it's terrible.
yeah.
This Digimon is complete garbage.
Well, you mean his design is a bit poopy?
I wasn't gonna say that.
Is it a bit poopy?
You know what? No, I'll go about it later because we can talk about designs at the
Yeah.
end.
So now this is something that I like. They say, "Give us your stuff, we're going to mug you" in both versions, and Mimi just says no, and I think that's pretty brave because she's quite young. She could just easily give them over and, submit, but instead she says no and she outright refuses to give her bags to them. And I kind of like that because we have seen her as sort of the weak one, the girl, but here she's standing up for herself. She's not going to just give her stuff in because
Well,
someone tells her to.
she has practice already with resisting poop monsters.
Yeah,
Like, there's this weird running joke that all poop monsters want to date Mimi.
poor Mimi.
Um,
Anyway, so they start throwing poop, and of course they run away because as brave as she is, no one wants poop.
she
Like
runs away for about 20 seconds.
until they slip down a tree and
No, no,
grab.
no, until she gives up.
Yeah, because
She stops first, and she's like, "No, I'm done."
yeah, you're right. But so that they grab the Digivice, and then suddenly they don't want to. They're nice and don't want to mug them, and in the Japanese version, Sukamon says, "I feel like I've turned into a good poop." But the English version, it's whole new person, and Chumon just says, "Yeah, whole new person." But I like the good poop part. I thought it was funny because they
Oh,
talk.
You know what? This is the moment where I go, okay, I understand why Devimon probably couldn't mind control stuff because this is around, and I don't know if there was probably no black gear because they didn't show one.
Yeah,
But if,
there was they. I think they basically made a point of showing there wasn't a black gear because it sort of zoomed out of it, and you could just see them. And usually that's the point where you can just see the black gear fly out. So they sort of made a point of showing you there's no black gear. So maybe it is showing you that it doesn't just destroy black gears, it destroys evil.
so, I guess that begs the question of why, when this is in the next episode, but uh, someone Joe is attacked by an evil Digimon. His Digivice doesn't just turn him good.
Good question, actually. That's a
Maybe you
good.
have to touch them and he just doesn't know. I don't know. I feel
Yeah,
like that's really powerful and they're probably
I,
not going to use it well.
no, well, you have seen them like in this episode. You will see them holding up the Digivice and not really necessarily making any contact, but
I understand that, but what I mean is if the kids were smart at all, maybe you would have gone, oh, if I just touch him, we're going to win. Boop.
yeah, but I don't think they quite know that yet. Like they've only seen one instance of it, and in this episode, it happens, and they think then they realize it. But Joe hasn't, he doesn't know that yet because he hasn't been in the
Well,
situation that
what I'm
Izzy and Mimi are in this episode.
what I'm saying is that my guess is that they're never going to do it well. They're never going to be like, oh, we can just solve all our problems with this because they can. At least we're
Mm,
shown so far that they can.
I'm not saying anything.
All right.
Anyway, so then there's this line in the English version.
I, Devimon, have become a good poop.
Anyway, so there's this line in the English version that wasn't what Jay just said. It's a gorgeous girl like you must have a big brain, which is kind of different from what like in society has told us that you can't uh, good looks or smart, choose one. That's the sort of thing that society has given us. I, of course, am both because I'm a gift to everyone. I am a delight.
But yeah, I think I guess that it rests on the joke about them not having much of a brain, so they look for that.
Yeah,
And then
and I think Mimi's quite smart in
hmm,
the Japanese version at least.
she's fine. This
She's not
episode she's a
stupid.
bit hysterical.
Yeah, but she's like when I was 10, I would have had a breakdown if I was ignored.
That's true. It is hard to quantify the
Like,
kids being
okay,
10.
I wanted to get into this later, but we have to get into it now.
Yeah.
This is basically an episode like Mimi is an only child.
Mm.
Can we talk about this? Mimi's an only child.
Oh,
Um,
oh, I know this bit.
so why did she say that she's starting to miss her baby brother?
I didn't know she was an only child.
She's an only child.
Oh wow, the English writing team does not know anything.
Yep. Brings us back to that what the Anon said that maybe they just thought that they weren't going to ever get to a point where they saw the parents and the families and oh half brothers, yeah, sure, she has a baby brother, of course she does. I'm so mad. Like anyway,
Oh wow, that's really bad.
so yeah, like I'm not saying all only childs don't like to be ignored. I don't think anyone likes to be ignored, especially 10-year-olds. But like, she breaks down because she's being ignored, and I think that's fair enough.
Also, she's super hungry, which she says all the time.
Yeah, because like if you don't feed a 10-year-old, they're probably gonna be very upset with you.
I understand that, but I don't. She doesn't need
Jay,
Toshiro to
when you
go
were
out and
looking
get
after the
food with her.
when you were looking after the V pet, did it cry a lot when you didn't feed it?
I don't know. I had on mute the whole time
Oh yeah, that's right.
because I didn't want to hear it cry.
Anyway, so they escape. They go to it. They jump over to another island on Palmon, which is actually really useful. Like this is the second time in the episode we've seen her vines do something really resourceful and quite cool. So I
Palmon
think
OP, please nerf.
Bandai, please nerf 2 OP. Like her poison ivy's pretty good. Like at the same time of it being poison ivy, it can grab onto things like rocks when you're falling off a cliff
That said, Agumon and Gabumon can start fires.
and set your clothes on fire.
It's true. It's very useful.
Mm. Anyway, so it rotates on to Koshiro, finds a temple, and Tentomon says something along the lines of, "I this doesn't look like a beach resort or something because they're on an island."
Why would he know what a beach resort is?
I don't know because I guess English writing.
Fuck, it's amazing.
Anyway, so they go inside and they see all the digicode or digi emoji written on the wall. What? I'm pretty sure that's what the Japanese name is called.
Digi emoji?
Apparently,
Really?
yeah.
I don't believe you. I straight up don't believe you.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's called when I look. Because digicode is a silly name.
Digicode makes more sense than Digi emoji.
It's digimoji.
Wow. Well, all right. So I'm expecting to see like a couple smiley faces
And a poop.
and a poop. That would make more sense, actually. That would belong in the world. He plugs his laptop into a tree root. Like, it's fine, it's digital, so whatever, it
Well,
can be
it's
anything it wants.
tree roots and how the tree gets energy. So I guess if you're in the digital world where everything's digital, completely digital, then you get electric from the tree.
Electric from the tree.
I made sense of that. You cannot deny that.
Electricity.
Oh my god. Why though?
Anyway, it's stupid, but it's nothing. So,
So Mimi comes in and she runs up to Koshiro, and Koshiro doesn't want to leave because he wants to find out more about the digital world, which is actually pretty understandable. Like, that's his character. He has the thirst for knowledge. He's curious. That's just what he does. He wants to know things because of, what his parents are potentially hiding from him. He just wants to find everything out.
it's
So
really
it's understandable,
it's
but
really interesting
yeah.
how he just doesn't care at all. She shows up and he's like, hey, just goes right back to it. And I kind of like that. It's a lot like when Sora wasn't really all in on the Digimon train. She's like, I don't really want to be responsible for this little bird thing. He's like, I'm doing my thing. I don't, just stop bothering me. I'm busy.
So then Mimi starts crying, so Palmon does too. And then Mimi runs off. And then something that I noticed is in the Japanese version, Palmon's still upset when Mimi leaves and she stops crying. But in the English version, the tone changes. It's like, oh, she's gone. Just like she was only crying because Mimi was.
Wait, you missed the greatest line,
What?
which is, do something. She's crying, and he goes, my laptop can't do everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a good line.
So there's a slight shift in the way that they've framed everything between Japanese and English, I think here. In Japanese, Koshiro does not pay any attention to her. Just almost doesn't respond to her at all,
Mm.
and is just completely in his head, and you can see like the wall, the invisible wall, and she just feels really ignored. Whereas in the English, Izzy is responding to her. He's not doing what she wants, but he's saying, "This is what I'm doing. This is my plan." And he's like, "I'm trying to save the world here. Your being hungry isn't as important as that." And he's going back and forth with her about it.
Yeah, so at
So when
least
she
he's
starts
responsive.
crying, she seems like weird and unreasonable. And he's only kind of ignorant. Whereas in Japanese, he's completely spaced out, and her crying like is more reasonable. I don't think they wanted to make him look as bad in English.
Mm. But in that way they made Mimi look as bad because like worse because she she was sort of breaking down over, you know, he was still responding to her, like as you said, but Mimi was still having the same reaction. But
Hmm.
yeah, I completely understand her getting upset in the Japanese version because he's just not talking to her. She's hungry. She doesn't want to really be there. And he's just not responding to her. He's not really telling her much. So of course she breaks down because of that. But in the English version, he's still saying, "Hang on, I'm trying to do this. I want to find out where we are. I want to decipher this." And he's talking about them being hieroglyphics.
Well, he can't say Digimoji.
But he could. I thought he would at least call it digicode, which is the official English name for it.
It's weird carvings on the wall of a temple. Hieroglyphics is a word you'd go for.
Yeah, especially if you're a little nerd like Izzy.
Hmm. Even
Anyway,
even the
yeah,
Ladybug Mon is like, God damn it, Kojiro.
yeah. So when Mimi runs away, now something I noticed is Tentomon is a really caring Digimon. Like while the other Digimon like tend to prefer to stay with their partners and make sure the partners are safe, Tentomon actually runs after Mimi to make sure that she's okay.
Yeah,
And
and
this
he
is an
has.
interesting episode as for the first time that we've actually seen Digimon with other people that aren't just their partner.
And the Ladybug had been like, "Yo, Kosho, she's really upset here. Do you wanna pay attention?" He's like, "No, I'm busy though." Um, uh, Although in English he's just a sarcastic
Yeah.
like about everything. So yeah, the character is
Aren't all
fairly
the
differently.
Digimon though in that way?
No, like Tentomon especially. He's like, Izzy, I'm not sure this is a good idea. What are you doing? Hey,
So,
stop being a nerd.
so something that I noticed is besides when Mimi says she's even starting to miss her baby brother, which doesn't exist, so she must have an imaginary friend and thus should be taken away to see some people about that. Anyway, so I've also noticed that she's constantly talking about cheerleading camp, like that she had a choice to go to cheerleading camp and she didn't. This is obviously in the English version, by the way. Like she says, oh, I should have gone to cheerleading camp when they're first going to the digital world, when they're like going down the
Yeah, yeah.
blue,
In the tidal wave, the Digi
yeah,
tidal wave.
and she says, I should have gone to cheerleading camp, which she's constantly talking about. And why? I get it. She's a girl.
And the problem with Mimi with Moo Moo, I guess, is that and I've mentioned it before, is that often you can't tell if she even knows what's going on around her. She's stumbling through the temple and she goes, "I'll never recommend this resort to anyone." And you're like, "But it's not a resort. You know that. Why are you even saying this? How completely out of your mind do you have to be to think this is just a bad resort you've been to?"
Like, I think the dub writers just hate Mimi, maybe. Because they do give her a lot of silly lines. Like, when she's. When they're walking around the temple and she sees that big hole in the ground, in the Japanese version, she just goes, oh, okay, and then sort of sidesteps around the side, which is really brave for a 10-year-old to do. And in the English version, she's much. Like, I think that's when she said.
Izzy, did you have to make us go the scenic route?
Which I think was kind of a funny line, but.
It's okay. In the English one, they identify because there's this thing with mazes, and that the Ladybugmon really gets, which is if you just always turn left, you'll get there,
Hmm.
because you're just following one wall until eventually you've just discovered everything.
Yeah.
It only doesn't work if there are floating elements of the maze, which in this one there are not. So he's like, why don't we just always turn left? And she's like, no, I'm gonna run off and cry. But then, you know what? There are traps, so that doesn't necessarily work in this version. But it makes sense. It's something that it's even 10-year-olds sometimes know.
Mm.
So we see the Digimon who's guarding the place.
Which is Sentaromon or Kentaromon.
So Kentaramon is a good name. Like that's fine, and you see the Japanese change there. And the fact that they changed it in English, you know what? I get why they did
Yeah,
that.
because it's a word. Like centaur is an actual
But
word.
they didn't
I
change
guess
it to Teddymon. They don't change a lot of stuff. Why this one?
because it makes more sense to be Centarumon than Kentarumon.
You know what? No, it doesn't. Because it should be Minotaurmon. They
But he's a
got
centaur.
but they got it backwards. The whole deal they're going for is like the
Yeah,
guardian
the
of the
the, the
maze.
minotaur in the maze. Yeah.
Yeah, but they've got the animal and the human bits backwards.
Well,
Uh,
there is a Minotaurmon, and he's pretty badass looking. Anyway,
I'm not
so
looking forward to it.
we straight away see that he's got a black gear in the back. Like, so we obviously like say, oh, I guess that's the monster of the week.
I'm really glad they didn't give us like. I mean, they've made it a precedent by now, but you didn't get a moment where Tendamon goes, that's Kentaramon. He's a nice Digimon," and then they get surprised.
Yeah, I think they should just know that Digimon might be grumpy because the black gears.
And so in Japanese, Kentaramon never says a thing. He's just quiet, and runs after them and shoots some lasers at them. But the English writers don't really understand that silence is scary when it's an evil Digman.
Mm.
And so instead, he's this weird British centaur.
Same. It reminds me of Unimon. Remember he was saying it was
Yeah,
when he was all classy
and yeah, it's weird. He's like, "Your doom is at hand, children."
and he's like, oh, what does he say to Tentomon? Like, oh, Tentomon, it's good to see you again.
And you're sitting there like, Are you evil or just campy and weird?
He's a camp English dude.
I guess you could be both.
But I like when they're silent because it is much scarier, and like I think they might have changed it because it was a bit too scary.
I
Because
guess
like
maybe.
this is a show for children, so you don't want to scare the children.
Nah, it is fun though.
Like it's like the one time that I borrowed this scary book from the library. As scary, I mean it was like one of those. It was in the R.L. Stein days, so it was like
It
one
was
of those.
Goosebumps. It was Goosebumps.
No, but it wasn't. No, it wasn't Goosebumps. It was in those. But when Goosebumps was popular, there was a bunch of other ones who decided to piggyback onto that craze.
Yeah, I think I
But
know
on the
those.
back it said, "And remember, children, there are no monsters in this world, only the fears that we hold in our heart." And I was just like, "No, I want to be scared. I'm not going to be scared now after reading that. I got this book to be scared. I didn't get it to, oh, I guess it's okay then."
Well, that's an important thing about the experience of media is that you go into it to feel emotions, and if the show is going out of its way to dampen the emotion you would otherwise feel, that is undermining itself.
Though Digimon's not meant to be like it's not meant to be it's not classified as a horror
I'm
anime.
sorry, did you see the next episode?
Oh yeah, okay. Like there are some horror episodes, but it's like
And one of the key feelings you should be getting out of these early episodes is just like the kids' like fear and
yeah, the kids could die.
isolation.
Like the kids are in a situation that they could die. They're not with their parents. Like
If their parents were there, they could protect them from the charging rhinos.
as much as I wanted to go to the digital world when I was, a little kid, if I actually went there, I would probably be so scared because there's all these monsters. There are giant spiders. There are
There's the Red Baron, and he's a bug.
yeah, and he's giant. Like that's terrifying for a kid. I'm pretty sure that's terrifying for an adult. Like if you think about it.
There's a big fight in which Koshiro is almost murdered.
Yeah, well, when once Koshiro and Palmon find the their partners and they realize that yes, let's digivolve in this tiny room, so they have to break out the side and yeah, Koshiro almost is stabbed by Togemon.
And imagine how much different the show would be if he got like just hit in the chest. It's like, oh, mistakes, and so just lose one of the kids.
That'd be disturbing for all the children
Yes,
involved.
it would.
Mm.
It'd make for some interesting, and like he would have been right on the edge of solving everything, so they'll have to work out what's on his laptop. That'd be awesome.
Anyway, so once the attack is done, the black gear flies out, and I can't remember who says it because like I watched this episode like a week ago, but someone says, "Oh, Kentarumon had a black gear," and it was like, "Duh." Like, no, he was no. This the Guardian was just attacking you because he felt like it. Like, duh, he had a black gear.
And so he gets up and is like, "Hey, that thing, that Digivice," and he describes that it's a holy relic essentially. Um, and holy is a really interesting word to use because this is the second time it's shown up in the show. Um, and it really implies like religion,
Mm.
and you start wondering, is there a digigod? Uh, uh, is Kantarmon like a digipriest?
Well, he's a
It's
guardian of a temple. Like that's
yeah.
sort of like a digipriest, I guess.
And so, are they the digigods because they're the destined kids, or are they just like the prophets?
Like
It's really
there
confusing
there is a little bit of like references to religion in the Japanese version.
in
Like
that the
a
bad guy is the devil.
yeah, but they remove like most of the references to religion in the English version. Also, speaking of Devimon, in the first version VPET, one of the Digimon that you could get was Devimon, but for some, and this obviously came out before the show, and they changed the name of Devimon to Darkmon, but they didn't change that in the show. They only changed it in the Digimon Pet. I just thought that was worth noting.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I just
Um,
because they decided let's change his name because that's a bit too sinister, and then they guess they just threw that away. We just okay, we guess we can just keep his name as Devimon.
so I might be overstretching this a little bit, but I've noticed that both things, both Digimon that refer to like things that are holy and religion, are both horse aspect with these weird metal things on their faces with visors.
Yeah, a lot of holy things in this show tend to have visors. That's I never
Like they
realized.
have these weird metal things strapped to their face. Both of them, Unimon and Kintaramon, both have like this similar horned helmet.
Maybe it's sort of paladin thing.
Maybe. I wonder
Like
if that.
they're like a paladin. They have their knights.
I wonder if that keeps showing up. It probably doesn't. It's
No,
probably.
no, no. I've never realized it, but yeah, there are holy themed Digimon, and they have visors, and you can't see their eyes.
Oh, that's super
That
weird.
must be a religion thing, right? With not being able to see someone's holy's eyes.
I don't know. And you can kind of see Kentaromon's eye. He has one. It's just red. It's probably a
Yeah,
visor though. So who
yeah.
knows?
There's a visor.
So, um, then the Leomon shows up and they fight him off with holy raver beams from their Game Boys.
Yeah, and in the
Um,
English version, Mimi, once Leomon runs off, says, "Bad kitty, out, go on,
in English,
out."
the Digivices are described as the last line of defense against the darkness, because it turns out that the Digidestined are the watchers on the wall, the sword in the darkness, the protectors of the realms of men, and also they might be able to order pizzas.
Yeah, I got that.
And yeah, that's really it. They leave. Uh, so did you notice that this episode has literally exactly the same formula in every respect to the last episode?
Yeah, because that's the sort of the like they have to get back together, so they may as well tell the stories of everyone else.
No, I don't just mean there are two kids. I'm gonna go step by step, okay? There's two kids, one on each island. One of the kids goes along their island and they find a yeah, they find a Digimon, they find them, whatever. And then they travel to the other island over a bridge of some kind. Then a fight takes place in which they beat up a Digimon with a black ear, and that black ear pops out of them. And then they continue on, and then they fight another Digimon with the help of the one with the black ear they knocked out of.
Yeah, like
And it's the same. This, like, you can see. Also, even more than that, they have the same argument. Um, Izzy and Mimi have the same argument of Izzy and Ty are the same, which is I want to work out what's going on, so I want to discover stuff, and then Matt and Mimi have the same thing of I care about what my friends are doing, I want to make sure they're okay.
oh, I
And
didn't think of that.
they have literally the same argument. It's just Mimi gives up way earlier and doesn't punch anybody. And instead of oh no, and they both run away. But instead of chasing after her, Izzy just sits down and does a laptop thing. But
Mm.
the episode is exactly the same.
Well, the next episode's not.
No, it's not. But this one, like in small details, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Oh, it's ridiculous. Anyway,
So what did you think as a newbie to Digimans?
well, there are a lot of obviously there's a lot of weirdness going on here. You know, plugging into trees, and there's the code on the wall, which has cracks in it, so it shouldn't work. We've established that if you wipe some of the code away, it stops working. But it's super weird. Um,
I think this ones would just seem to like not be functional. They seem to just be sort of
but the
because they
lights are
weren't
on.
lit up.
No, the lights are on.
Yeah, but there was yeah the lights were on, but they connected to the code.
Well, they never figured out what powered the lights, so I guess you don't know.
Light bulbs, duh.
You just say that light bulbs powered the lights?
Yeah, what powers your lights?
Electricity.
Yeah, and what does electricity go through? The light bulbs.
If light bulbs aren't powering the lights, they are the lights.
Jay, I'm into IT. I think I know about a light bulb.
Okay, fine. All right, let's pretend that made sense.
Definitely.
uh, and the only thing that this episode really tells us is that the Digivices are the sick weapons against evil, but they seem, I'm going to use the term disgustingly powerful, in that I would be shocked if they didn't just solve all of their problems with them. Because it should be able to. Just
Maybe they're not strong enough to solve like every single one of their problems.
just touch just touch Devimon with it and you'll win. Probably. Right?
I don't think they try that.
Um and yeah, so it's fine, I guess. It's it just it's so much of the same. It's the same episode again. I don't know how to judge it. Instead of ice, there's a maze. Instead of a teddy bear, there's a centaur. Instead of uh you know, a standing up furry man. You're fighting a standing up furry man.
Good point. Good point. So, what differences did you notice, and do you think that those differences were justified?
Um, the biggest difference is that they really dampened how garbage Koshiro was. So
Mm.
Koshiro is just completely spaced out in Japanese. He's not there at all, and so when Mimi feels like he's not paying attention to her, that makes perfect sense because he's really not. Whereas in the English, he's responding and she's just being awful and not and she's barely interacting even though she's yelling at him. So she's being hysterical. Um and he's not the best, but he's not as bad as he is. And it doesn't justify her running off and it feels weak. And I don't know, it's just you feel that constant just ruining of Mumu's character. Um, and I think it undermines what we know of Izzy as well, because it's a character, it's a thing he does, where he doesn't pay attention to stuff, and that's interesting. But if he's just going to be just if they're just going to wishy-washy it, I guess is the term I'm going to use, then it becomes way less interesting.
Mm.
Was there
Like,
anything else that was major?
not really. It was mainly just like Mimi once again seems like she's being irrational when she's in the Japanese version. She's actually being quite rational. Like, also the baby brother line. Like, I know we've covered that, but
Well, I didn't know at the time that was ridiculous, but it is.
it goes up there with the line about the half brothers.
Yeah, the Half Brothers one, I understood that one because I thought that they wanted to get away from the idea of divorce and they would just change it going forward. But instead, it's just that they were wrong. I did not know that it was just because they were wrong.
Oh yeah, they're definitely just wrong
This half brother one, there's no. The other one had a reason to change. I get that. But this one was invented out of nowhere.
to make Mimi sound,
More stereotypical.
yeah,
Uh,
and seem sort of like frantic, I guess is the word.
yeah. I mean, she kind of is anyway, in the
Yeah.
Japanese as well, but it's a deepening of it. Especially when it's not necessary. And they just invent something which is wrong.
Mm.
She has an imaginary baby brother.
Maybe.
But then I guess she could have brought him if he was an imaginary.
Yeah, like, or if he was real, maybe he would have come too, like TK.
That would have been terrible. That would have turned out really badly for that kid.
Oh no, he could be pretty cool.
No, there's no way she'd look after him like Matt tries to look after TK. So in like episode 1 or something, I made a joke about the Digipast and the Digipresent and Digifuture, and it turns out that's exactly what it is. I can't believe that's canon. It's in the name of the episodes.
Well, it's in the English canon.
Yeah, but that counts, except for the brother stuff. Most of the stuff that happens is pretty much the same. You wouldn't, you're not gonna say that they're not technically the Digidestined Japanese. They're the chosen children, and you'd make that distinction. I wouldn't think anyway. And so the Digipast, Digipresent, and Digifuture is real.
And they have clues from them.
And yeah, they're getting clues of nothing. The only clue, I guess, is the Digivice does a thing, but they're not getting that from the past. They're getting that from the Centaur, who's talking to them in the present.
So the dancing Digimon starts off with Devimon talking. In the Japanese version, all he says is "chosen children, resent your destiny," and then just laughs and is ominous. But in the English version, they just made him say like 5 sentences about like saying about what happened. Like, I, Devimon, have completely separated those 7 brats and their pesty Digimon. That is until that Tai and Mimi caught up with Matt and Izzy. But I'll make sure they'll never find their other friends, especially with the plans that I have for Sora and Jyou on that lovely day, the Bakemon holiday.
There is everything wrong with this scene, all at once. And you know what? Even in the Japanese, this is wrong because doesn't Devimon, like the arch evil of this universe, have anything better to do than stand on top of a mountain and just gloat?
Yeah, because the chosen children are stopping him in his plan, so we're just like, you guys better not do that.
But wouldn't he go about doing his plans while they're disabled? Because if they can get back together, he should use his time
I see.
effectively.
I think he has gone back to his plans of just turning all the Digimon evil. Like he's just letting the black gears out. Like I think that he's still doing his. That's all he wants to do. He just wants to get those gears out.
So you think that he can just stand on top of the mountain and just it'll be fine?
Yeah, I think that's his theory. I don't think he's that bright.
And then
Like he's
yeah, obviously.
yeah. Like anyway, so he also talks
Oh,
about
but in the English version, first of all, he
yeah.
opens with "This is my name, I say to no one but myself.
He die Mojo Jojo.
I'm Mojo Jojo." And then he recounts all the stuff, which makes no sense. Why would he do that? But when did he learn their names?
Yeah,
Also,
that's yeah, and also I'm pretty sure he has no impact on the episode that happens. Like this episode, like he seems to hint like, oh yes, with the plans that I have for Sora and Joe, but you don't have plans for them because you don't do anything. There are no black ears.
well, well, they're underground. I guess they're
Yeah,
just moving the
yeah,
things.
they're moving the. But I just think that's a natural occurrence. There are no black gears in the Digimon we see in this episode, making them evil.
I think it's implied that he intentionally put them on the island with the ghosts that will kill them. But yeah, why does he know their names? It's never shown when he learned them. B, why would
Mm.
he care what their names are if they're just
Yeah, he just
annoying
calls
pests he wants to
they're
kill?
chosen children. Like that's just what they are to him, and he just doesn't like that. So he's just gonna stand on the hill, the mountain, and laugh and be evil.
This
But
bad
instead
guy
he
is
wants to talk.
complete garbage.
Yeah,
It's so hard to take him seriously.
yeah, I agree. I mean, it's pretty scary though. At least in the Japanese version, he's got that. Like they gave him a better voice in the Japanese version because it's actually quite scary.
Yeah, and his powers are scary, and like everything's set up well, and then he starts speaking, and you're like, oh my god, this dude is terrible.
Well, at least he talks less in the Japanese version. I mean, I know he'd be much scarier if he didn't talk, but it is a kids show. I don't think they want to scare the kids.
I, Devimon,
I, Mojo Jojomon.
I, a golden poop.
I'm now a good poop.
That's the one.
All right, so we see Joe and Gomamon, and something I've noticed about the water in this doesn't look like it just doesn't look like water to me. It's not very. It seems too solid to me.
Well, that makes sense because there's a bed floating on it.
No, but the water looks solid. Like later on we see it when they're moving around more, but the water when it goes up in the air, it just looks like a solid object. Like it's not. I mean, I have nothing to say because I'm not an artist and I'm not an animator, but just it just doesn't look realistic.
But in the English, it looks amazing.
Hmm. So all we hear is Joe in the Japanese version complaining about how he didn't want to go to camp, and
Oh, he complains about it constantly.
yeah, in the Japan, but I don't think he really mentions it in the English version. He's just seasick in the English version.
Well, he talks about not wanting to have gone to camp right after Gomon eats basically the last of their emergency supplies.
Yeah, because he wanted to study so he could go to a prestigious middle school.
But he says this is exactly why I didn't want to go to camp,
Like
which
he knew,
this
he knew.
interprets directly into I did not want to go to camp because I was sure that a white and purple otter with a mohawk would eat all of our emergency supplies while we're stranded on a floating bed after the island we were stranded upon exploded. He totally saw all of that coming, and that's why he regrets his decision.
Hmm. Clearly.
And he's in the English. He's like, this this. I always knew that a bed would make a good boat, or something like that.
Mm.
But honestly, the bed is making a surprisingly good boat.
Yeah, like I think you'd want to ditch the mattress. Like I don't think that'd be very good for the boat, but the wood would be okay. Like, but not the mattress.
Depends on the kind of mattress, I guess.
Do you see many floating mattresses?
I I don't know. I guess not. I don't spend enough time in near rivers and oceans, I guess.
Well, just push your bed into the water.
No.
Anyway, so a box shows up, and in the Japanese version, says, "Oh, it could be food," but it's just Ogumon.
Yeah, Amazon shipped them an Ogumon.
And what I noticed in the Japanese version, the bad guys sure do talk a lot about killing the children.
Well, it would solve all of their problems.
I mean, in the English version, it's not. It's never really said that they want to kill the children. I mean, they obviously want to, but they
No,
don't
they want to
say it.
capture them.
And
Presumably so they can be killed, but they
yeah,
never say that. They just want to capture them.
and then we see that Gomamon's quite smart because he said that he uses his marching fishes because Ogumon grew up in the canyon and he doesn't like fish because he grew up in the
Because
canyon.
Ogumon's never seen a fish before.
Yeah.
Which he's not him being smart. He's just creative.
Well, I think that's quite intelligent. Like he says,
No,
"Oh,
because
he
it's
won't like fish."
wrong.
I mean, he's
Like,
not happy with it. Like he's
no,
clearly put off by it.
for like 2 seconds. And then he starts punching them. And he's like, oh, well, I guess not.
But Gomon says something rather insightful in the English version because he says, "When the small and meek join forces to fight for a good purpose, they can often bring about the downfall of the big and powerful."
That's a really weird line that doesn't sound like a thing he would say.
Yes, because Goemon's, he's kind of like a clown. Like he's silly, he's not very serious, but that's like quite a serious, insightful thing to say.
And then he's like, oh, guess not.
Yep. So then Goemon evolves and Ikakumon beats up Ogumon, but then he's tired because all the food he ate, he's still tired after digivolving.
I don't get it. He fired one attack, and that instantly depowers him pretty much.
Yep.
That's really not very efficient. Like, this whole hunger thing is a ridiculous, ridiculous restriction.
Well, I guess because like it would make them just really overpowered if they could just beat up everybody and without any restriction. Like
But
it
they
doesn't seem.
should be overpowered. Like, that's what they've been shown to be. How come none of the other Digimon, like, say Kentarumon, need to eat probably at all?
Because
Why
because he doesn't need to evolve, and evolving is a natural process in the digital world. Like
which
it's
you do
something that they
hundreds of times in your life.
no, but for Digimon that don't have partners, they're brought up just and they grow up naturally as maybe humans do. Like they do change, that they have changes, and as they overcome certain obstacles, then they can evolve. But it has to be a big obstacle. The children just help them evolve, and it just happens a lot faster.
That makes sense.
Anyway, so they drown,
Pretty much.
and then we see where Sora is, and Sora's being quite resourceful because she's fishing. I mean, she's fishing with a stick. Well, in the Japanese version, it says she's fishing with a stick
Yeah,
because she doesn't have a worm.
she's doing fine.
Yeah, and I think that's quite smart. Like, I don't think we've seen anyone be that intelligent on their own, but she's quite like she's not panicking. She's quite happy, I think.
And she's like, "Yeah, I didn't have any worms. I just put a stick down there, and hopefully that'll do. It'll trick some fish into biting."
Yeah. So then it starts bobbing, so she thinks she's caught something, but it turns out just to be Joe.
Yeah, I thought that the stick initially was the bait. I'm like, well, that's a bad place to catch it, but it's just the bobber,
Mm.
which shows that she knows a bit about fishing, because that's not the like an immediately evident piece of fishing knowledge, I think, anyway. Which is good. It shows she can do stuff.
Yeah, which I like because it's
They
nice to make characters intelligent.
that never let Mimi do that.
Oh no, she knows stuff about camping though in the Japanese version.
Only in the Japanese version, which they will then give to other people in English.
Huh, yeah. So Gomamon wants to when they're Joe's unconscious still. So Gomamon says, "Hey, we should. He's getting more timid by the day. I think we should do something to boost his confidence. Let's make him leader." But in the English version, it's just like, "Oh, he's seasick, so he's kind of sad. We should make him happier." Like it seems more of a short-term effect in the English one rather than a long-term effect in the Japanese one, which is, you know, the potential to make him a braver person.
Yeah, I appreciate in Japanese, Gomon has like a good read on Joe and what would help him out the most.
Mm.
And it works out fine, except that Joe as the leader is a little bit petulant and annoying and
Yeah, maybe
whiny.
maybe he's just copying Ty. Just like, let's do it. I don't care what anyone else says. Let's do it.
Yeah, Ty's leadership style is not the best
Mm. But who really says that Ty was the leader? Like, how did he become leader?
because in America he was the first character to speak. So he must be the main character and thus the leader. Right? Yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I guess he has the goggles.
If you have goggles and it's a shonen anime, it must be the leader.
Clearly.
Um, and then they
They,
find the church.
no, they hear the
Yeah,
bells
they
and
hear
they
them
say, "Oh, were the bells celebrating my
becoming the leader.
me being a leader?" And then they just
Yes,
they
Joe.
walk towards the church, and then Gomon, Sora, and Piyomon say, "Hey, Joe, you should investigate because you're the leader." And he's like, "Oh, I don't really want to." And then Gomon says, "I'll do it." And he says, "Oh, fine, I'll do it." And then he sees people, and he's so happy.
Like the seeing people is like instantly you're like, oh, it's surprising. They look super weird, and they've got these really freaky like cultist masks on.
Yeah, but they're people like they're people. They're people sized. They're people shaped. They look like people.
Obviously, you should trust them.
Yeah, clearly. So he runs back, and then he says, "Oh, let's take a look." So they take a look, and there's this creepy guy who just says, "Hello." I didn't write down what he actually said.
There's a creepy priest right behind them, behind the kids, and the priest is like, "Here, kids, come with me," and they're like, "Yeah, that seems legit."
Yep.
Like just like in real life.
And then he says, "Oh, we're celebrating Bakamon summer." And then Gomon says, "Well, I know Bakamon. He's just a ghost Digimon who goes around the Overdell graveyard. So he doesn't really deserve Sama on the end." And then they get really annoyed. And the English version is just saying, "Oh, Bakemon's not that great. Why are you celebrating Bakemon?" So they sort of have the same premise, but it's means a bit more because Sama's really that's a term of worthiness.
It's an interesting like Japanese cultural discussion as opposed to just yeah, Bakumon's an asshole. Why would you think that guy's cool? Um, although again, the kids are just really trusting of everybody. Oh, this is the bit we were going to talk about with Joe.
Yeah.
And how Joe is timid about everything, except he is desperate to find other people. So
Mm.
he will do anything and trust anything if there are other people around.
Yeah. If
Um,
someone said, "Oh, there's a person, you just have to jump off a cliff," he'd probably do it. He'd say, "Oh, there's a person, I'll do it."
because his whole deal is that he needs the adults around to tell him what to do. And so when he was
Because
at the
that's all he's
mansion,
done for his whole life. Like he's going to med school because that's what his brothers have done, and that's what he's gonna do.
his baby brother, who may or may not exist.
He has two big brothers in the Japanese version.
Oh, he's the baby brother who might not exist.
Yeah, clearly.
So that makes sense when he's like he's scared about everything. Okay, let's imagine there might be people there. I'm going. I'm going. I'm going. All right, this church is creepy, but there might be people there. I'm going. We're going. I'm the leader. I will decide. And I'm scared about everything else. But if there are people, and I guess he gets his courage from the idea that people will soon take his responsibility away, which is it's interesting. And he's the oldest, so he feels that pressure. And he's like, I gotta find people. All right, so we can continue now. I just want to address because we said we were going to
No,
get
no,
to
yeah,
it
yeah, no, that's important because it's an important character thing to note that he's a very nervous guy until potential chance for people, and then they realize that the people are the what look like people are actually Bakemon. In the English version, he says it's a trick and you're the treat.
It's
So then,
Pokemon Halloween.
so then they put Bakemon, the Bakemon put Gomamon and Piyomon into prison, and then they put Joe and Sora on an altar and wrap them up and start putting salt and pepper on them.
Okay,
So
a couple
something that
questions.
yeah,
A, where did they get a salt shaker that large?
it was a Digimon shop.
You think there's a Digimon that is a salt shaker, and they're
No, but
just
there
using it?
no, but there are kitchens in the digital world.
And another question, how do they know that they eat kids? They've never done it before, because there are no other kids in the digital world except in the Teddy Bear Mon's toy box.
I think they're just hungry.
But then why wouldn't they eat their Digimon?
Because
Because
they want something different. Maybe they always eat Digimon. Maybe they don't want to eat Digimon anymore. Maybe
but
they
how
want
do
to
they
eat
not
people.
know that the kids are poisonous?
Maybe it's like a prophecy thing.
Also, they're not really ghosts. They're floating things that wear sheets.
They're ghost-like. Also, you never know. They might have seen humans before.
Is there any evidence of that ever?
Maybe.
Okay. I just think it's really odd that their first instinct upon seeing kids is not what the hell is that, but okay, I'm hungry. I'll eat that and
Yeah, it
not
looks edible.
but not the bird.
Or the seal.
Yeah, the bird or the seal. Like, okay, no, those don't look tasty, even though they're Digimon that I would know.
So anyway, Gomamon and Piyomon are in jail, and Gomamon says something that I find quite amusing, which is Digimon who sleep with a mucus bubble coming out of their nose are easy to fool. And it's like that, it's that trope of the sleeping guard that you see so often in culture. That's like, they're, in on TV and in movies that they're in prison and they have to escape. And then there's the guard with the keys, like, hanging near the gate, and he's like either half asleep or fully asleep or just distracted. He might be watching TV. So it's that sort of dumb, easily fooled guard that they can escape
The
with.
best part about this one is that the guard has like a wine bottle on the box next to him,
Mm.
so it's also implied that he's super drunk.
Yeah, yeah. Remember in the prequel episode, the dad comes home drunk. They're not gonna ignore that.
It's a wine mucus bubble.
Ew. Anyway, so they say, oh, you have to torture us, don't you? And this is changed to taunt.
Yeah, torture's a bit of a
Yeah,
rough
because
term
it
to
gets a
use with
bit, and
kids.
even he says, because Abiyamon says, "Oh, I like to be tortured," and then Bakemon says, "You're weird."
It's like, guys, can you relax? You're the prisoners here, right?
So it's a pretty sexual reference, like I think. Like, I mean, I just took it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But in the English version, they just change it to taunt, like I have this food. What are you gonna do about it? Sort of way.
Like, it's your job to taunt us. Like, what are you doing? You're a shit. You're a terrible god. Unless you taunt us. Come on.
Yeah. So obviously they say, "Oh, just come closer." No, come closer, and then they grab him and they eat, so they can.
It's a fun like fourth wall breaking moment,
Yeah, I liked it.
and it's good. Like it's a cool like plan that they put together, and it's reasonably clever. Like well, like it's well done. And it gets them out because they bop him on the head,
Yeah.
and they eat the food and they can digivolve. Although they don't, do they when they're in the prison cell, or do they do it
No,
when they've
no,
escaped?
they do it when they escape because they need to be near the digivices of their partner. So the Bakemon,
Actually, then how did they get out of the cell?
they got the keys from the guard.
Did they? I thought they just took his food.
Well, they swapped with the guard. The guard was in prison after.
Yeah, but how did they open the door?
I don't know. He probably had. He probably had keys on him.
Okay.
Anyway, so what I noticed is that he's got bumps on his head. So I don't. That's not it. Just he's not just wearing a pillow sheet over his head. It's like that's actually his head.
No, there could be like
But they're red.
the bumps could be under the sheet.
But they're red and sore.
Well, yeah, but also if it's an anime and they have a sweat drop, the sweat drop is like the size of a fist,
And also outside their, yeah, good point, their clothes.
and on
Anyway,
their hair.
so meanwhile, all the Bakemon have merged into one, so that is Bakemon Summer.
Okay, so is this a new kind of evolution, or are they just also Pokemon? Is this a different Digimon?
I think it is because he has blue hands.
If this is Pokemon Sama, is Sama a file extension?
So it's Mon Summer is a file extension.
It's like it's Doc and Doc X.
Yeah, it's the compatibility mode.
Perfect. But yeah, it's a really weird small distinction. If you stuck all of those little bird blobs from that episode with Meramon together, would you get a giant bird blob?
Yeah, you get Piomon.
No, but would you get a super giant Piomon if you put lots of them together?
I don't know.
Can you just combine Digimon of the same type together until you get a bigger version?
Never thought of that.
That'd be awesome.
So they run into the Digimon run into the same room as their partners and they digivolve. And then, of course, they go outside because they don't want to trash the church. They realize that they're attacking and they're fighting, but they're not strong enough. So then Joe says, "Oh, what about a sutra? My grandma teaches me this sutra that I do for good luck on exams." So he starts chanting in Japanese, and this is actually an understandable change where it's changed to "Bakemon, lose your power. Bakemon, lose your power," which is,
Because
fair enough.
somebody taught him the physics of ghosts, where if you repeat a phrase, then they lose their power or something.
Yeah. So we actually see what the hat sounds like. It's not a beanie; it's a helmet. Because it makes hitting noises when they hit on it.
No, 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 it's a lucky hat.
Yeah,
In English, it's a lucky hat, and you get to see Sora without a helmet on.
yeah, which is cute.
I'm really impressed they animated it.
Yeah. So Bakemon gets small, like the Bakemon Sama gets smaller, and Ikakumon just uses his harpoon torpedo to shoot him. That clip is obviously deleted.
Yeah, it was. It was quite. It's kind of violent.
Yeah, because he's being stabbed with a harpoon.
Um, so do you think that works in all other Digimon as well? If you just chant at them?
Well, it's about ghosts because I
It's not really a ghost though. It's a thing wearing a sheet.
yeah, but it's a
A
ghost.
ghost is
It's a ghost
specifically the
Digimon.
spirit of a dead person. So either they're spirits of dead Digimon who become new Digimon, or they're just weird blobs with sheets on who pretend to be ghosts. Right?
Uh, as a ghost Digimon, its level is low, but because its body is composed of a fiendish virus program, it's said that computers it possesses are pulverized in a flash.
But so
Everything underneath its cloth, like um, is wrapped in mystery, and this is underneath. And this is Digimon is so mysterious. It is rumored that a portion of the shadow is its true form. Is its true form a black hole? Because its fighting strength isn't great, it doesn't attack directly, but instead an expert in indirect attacks employing curses of magical powers. So that's from the Digimon Wikia.
if its body is a black hole, then it's not a ghost. It needs to, for it to be a ghost, it must be the spirit of something that's dead.
Mm.
So if it's not a ghost, really, why do the chants work unless the chants also work on other Digimon? Which means if you get like a bottle of holy water and just kind of spritz it lightly at Devimon and be like the power of Digichrist compels you a couple times,
Mm.
problem solved.
Good point.
Seems that way to me anyway.
Yeah. So that's basically the episode. I mean, the island starts moving, so they go back to where everyone else is moving.
It starts moving automatically for no reason.
Maybe the Bakemon were making it not, because every other time we've
No, no,
seen
there are
someone
black
attack it.
gears. There are black gears under the ground, right? But if you
Yep.
kill the Bakemon, why would it break the gears? They weren't related.
Maybe they were connected with evilness.
Maybe.
Maybe
I
that's maybe that was what was controlling them. But every other time it's been, you know, Mimi hit the black gear, someone attacked the black
she
gear,
kicked it
or
super lightly as well. There's no
yeah, she was
reason.
having a tanty. She was having a tantrum.
Her powerful her kicks with the power of punches.
So Jay, what did you think of someone who was new to Digimon?
It was fine. I mean, obviously it begs a lot of questions about ghosts, which don't make any sense. Um, and about whether you can just chant a Digimon all the time. But as someone who's new, it's gives the Digimon a lot of agency where they have these weird plans where they dress up as people, and you have to ask yourself, why do they know what adult humans look like to dress up as them? And where do they get those masks that can crack? Do Bakemon all have shapeshifting ability? It's really weird, but it's fine. It's interesting at least. Um, and then, but it's all interim. It's all essentially filler until they get back together, and it's really obvious. The only, Joe is getting slightly better, but he goes up and down. You can never tell. And Sora has a good idea. No, one of the big differences is that in the English, Joe's like, "Give me a helmet, give it now," and he's being a leader and like direct and snappy. Whereas in English, she's like, I guess I'll use my helmet," and he's like, "Oh, that's a good idea." So she's
Mm.
given the idea instead, which is weird. That is not how the English writing usually goes, and instead they've given a girl character a better like an idea and some more agency than she would otherwise have had. So that's
Yeah.
odd, but there it is.
Yeah. So, what differences did you notice, and do you think they were justified?
Um, the biggest differences were direct Japanese cultural things that would not have made any sense to an English audience. They don't call the ghost Sama, they call it, Lord. And they don't have a conversation about Sama as an honorific. And they don't talk about sutras, they talk about physics. And so instead of it being a prayer to get better study marks, it's just a thing that happens to ghosts. Um, and the last thing is that, yeah, Joe in the Japanese uh, does develop better as a leader in the and they develop his confidence a lot more than they do in the English. So they don't quite achieve the goal there. I don't think that's justified. They probably should have kept it. But the change that was made, which is Sora has a good idea, however minor it is, it's fine. It's nice to see.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, the changes broadly were justified because they wouldn't have made any sense. Some of them, like they took out torture and made it taunting, doesn't change anything really, and just
Yeah,
makes it
it's
more
still
kid
like the same
friendly.
thing. It's still like what the guard they think the guard should do just as to trick them. Like
Yeah,
I just think that was pretty.
and then
Yeah,
they took the harpoon missile hitting him in the chest out. It's like, well, that was
that's fair enough.
unnecessary.
That was quite, but it was violent. They don't want to make it too violent.
It was justified enough, but I don't think it was necessary.
Mm. So, what episode do you think was better?
Oh, uh,
See,
uh.
I think a clue from the Digipass was better because we do know a bit more about the Digivices, I guess. We get some like sort of character development. We get to see Mimi being really upset for an actual obvious reason. She's not just having a tantrum.
From a story perspective and getting the plot moving forward, yes, that was a lot better. I think from an enjoyability perspective, however, I liked the episode 11 a lot better. It didn't involve giant poops. It didn't involve Mimi crying a lot. It didn't, and in response to just Izzy being spaced out, which is interesting but not entertaining. Uh, Whereas I think that the ghosts were entertaining. I thought that the whole creepy mask thing was cool. Joe's development of becoming a leader, uh, everything, and Gomamon. Gomamon's hilarious.
Goemon's a good character. I like him.
And yeah, it was great. There's a line. It's like, I told you not to eat anything until later. You said that 20 minutes ago, and now it's later.
He has a point.
Kind of. And so it was a lot more entertaining, and so I guess more enjoyable. And so overall, despite that it doesn't move the plot forward at all, the second one, the Dancing Digimon, probably more. It's probably better, just a little bit.
Yeah, like it also is good to Goemon's trying to help Joe.
Also, it doesn't follow the formula directly.
Yeah,
It has differences in the way things go.
and that you only meet one Digimon in it.
Yeah, and I
But
appreciate that.
I did like how we saw something different happen in a clue from the Digipast where the Digimon partners are separated, and we haven't seen that before. And I liked it because we saw how they can't digivolve when they're not with their partners, even if they want to.
Well, that also happened in the second one, in Dancing Digimon when they're in the prison. They
Yeah, but
can't.
no, they need the food. They also need the food.
True.
But the point of they need to protect is in that room anyway. So that's why they didn't digivolve earlier.
Mm. That's okay. And actually, the thing that's justified well about the food thing is that while Mimi is hungry, Palmon did eat.
Yeah.
Oh, then when did Tentamon eat? That's crazy. He's been in the
Mm,
temple all day.
good point. Maybe it doesn't matter because he's a bug.
Maybe he photosynthesizes.
Yeah, he bugger sizes. Anyway, so out of the Digimon that we met in these episodes, which were Chumon and Sukamon, Centaurmon, and Bakemon, what do you think of the designs?
Okay, well, Bakemon is just a sheet. Let's be honest. He's Haunter from Digimon with a sheet over him. That's from Digimon from Pokemon. Uh, he, or he's Ghastly. It doesn't matter. He's just a dude with a sheet. Um, and when his hands get cooler, I guess he gets slightly better. Kentarmon is an awesome design. I would fight that in a Dungeons and Dragons game or
Hmm.
something. It'd be really cool. And then there was a giant poop with a rat on it and I can't believe that is actually the worst design I've seen in this whole show. If I would be embarrassed to be caught watching this show if someone saw that over my shoulder. Its design is absolutely terrible. The rat looks stupid. The thing is a poop. Its teeth go all the way around its body, which means that the top half and the bottom half of its body are not actually connected. So it should just fall apart. And also, it's a poop. I hate that Digimon so much, and I'm afraid we're going to see a lot of it.
See, I think Bakemon's quite spooky in a way. Like, I mean, for a sheet on its head.
Well, the way it's presented in a cathedral where there's lots of them, that does make sense.
But like, especially when they become Lord Bakemon or Bakemon Summit, like when they get those creepy blue hands, that's pretty creepy.
I agree.
And Centaumon's pretty cool. Like, he is something you'd see in D&D. I really like his design. It's quite detailed as well. But yes, Sukamon and Shumon, it's poop and a rat, basically.
Alright, everyone, join us next time on Tenaru no Sekikun, Adventure, Patamon and I.
Or Digibaby Boom.
That's a terrible name. And also Angemon Awakes.
Or The Legend of the Digidestined.
That's a much better name.
Wonder what happens in those episodes. Like, someone awakes, I guess. Someone was asleep.
Japan doesn't care about spoilers at all.
If you want to keep updated with us on social media, we're at Translationmon on Twitter and Lost in Translationmon on Facebook and Tumblr. We'd really appreciate it if you gave us a review on iTunes just to help get the word out. Listen in next week for more Digitude.
Let's kick it out. Shout out all the things we can do. Let's kick it out. And now and not tomorrow. Let's kick it out. 'Cause I ain't seen the last of me and you. Let's kick it out together.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.